So welcome again to the Agile Limited podcast. It's me, your host, Tammy, and I'm here with a very special personality. We have Noel Warnell here with us. And let me just give you a brief rundown, even though you introduced yourself to us. He is currently the Chief Energy Officer of Now Agile Limited. So yes, so Noel is he is one specialist that clearly helps companies enjoy the benefits of agility, not just for sake of agility, but agility to be able to produce, better time to market, higher quality goods and services and all that. So we have Noel here on the podcast. So Noel, thank you very much for joining the Agile Limited podcast. Can you introduce yourself to our listeners?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, thank you very much for inviting me. It's an absolute pleasure to be here.
Thank you.
And maybe the best way to introduce myself is just to simply say that I've been an Agile practitioner for nearly 15 years now. And I've worked in all shapes and sizes of organizations, from 6 people organizations to 60,000 people organizations. So
Wow.
I've been very lucky, and I've got a broad perspective and depth of experience in seeing how agility can apply, not just in software either, but also in other sectors. So yeah, really happy to be invited. Thank you.
Thank you for coming on. So yeah, you said you've been in the space for over 15 years. So how did you walk in? Let's start with that. How do you walk into agility, so to speak?
I was pushed in. I didn't walk in. I didn't know anything about it. I'm going to be completely honest. It was purely by chance that my career working with agility and developing from a business analyst into a proxy product owner, into a Scrum Master, into a project manager, into an Agile coach. And I deliberately throw project manager in the middle there because that's like it's an anti-pattern, but actually it's quite normal. A lot of us have to take on other roles depending on the organizations that you're working with. But I was working as a business analyst for an investment bank. I was told on my first day, you're going to be joining this team. And it was a Scrum team, and they were just like doing weird stuff that I didn't know. They were like talking and using their own language for things. And after I got over the initial, okay, there's something different happening here, it was like, wow, oh my God, just makes sense. It's easy. Why have I been doing it the other way for so long? Oh my God. And so really from that point, other than having to slightly tweak my role for organizational purposes, I've always tried to apply the learnings, the principles, the values, different aspects of different frameworks to help teams and organizations get better at what they do.
Interesting. Yeah, I see. I can imagine when you got there and you're like, oh, let's have a daily stand-up or daily scrum. You're like,
yeah,
what's going on?
They started, the developers on the team started talking about estimating, and they started talking about story points, and they were getting these cards out and, showing that, because it was all in person. Because they were showing these guys like, what is going on? This isn't normal work. But it wasn't my normal. But it soon became my normal because, it just ignited a real passion and energy in me for a way of working that, really I could enjoy and I could really get behind. So, it was a transformational experience for me that happened purely by chance.
That's good to know. So in these 15 plus years, how has it been for you? The journey, how has it been?
What, in terms of my career, or in terms of my experience of how organizations are interested in and apply agility? What's your...
Yeah, the latter. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So I think there's been a huge shift actually to where we are now from when I first started around 2010 in this space, where it was expected almost that you would choose a framework, predominantly Scrum, certainly in the financial world. That was the thing that everyone was going after. And so you would have Scrum Masters, you would have product owners, and there would be training that was required for people and teams. And it was very much about helping people understand the process and follow the process. And it wasn't, frustratingly, so much about the benefit of the process. It was just, we want to do this process. We've heard it's the king's new clothes, and everyone else is doing it. So let's see if we can jump on that bandwagon. And so, yeah, there were plenty of jobs, especially a lot of contract roles available. And predominantly, even 15 years ago, the agile coaching role was nowhere near as prevalent as it is now. And I actually refused to call myself an agile coach until I had about 7 years of experience as a Scrum Master and proxy product owner in different teams in different organizations, because it just felt a little bit inauthentic to me. But nowadays it's super commonplace. You can go on a 2-day course and you can have a few months experience and you're an agile coach, or whatever the current naming convention is. Delivery lead or delivery manager is like really popular at the moment, for the kind of work that we do. But there are still many organizations out there who are asking directly for agility. Some of them don't say it explicitly, but a lot of them do. And so there are plenty of leaders out there, CTOs, CIOs, who have experienced it in some shape or form, have seen some benefits, and they want to recreate that in their latest product or organization that they're working with. So I think there is a demand, but unfortunately, it is also a little bit tainted now. The word agility and agile sometimes provokes a reaction that it definitely didn't 10 years ago. And it's not always positive either.
True.
So, as opposed to, give me this new, well, people assumed it was new. It's not, it's very old, but people assumed, give me this new thing. I'm hearing all about it. I'm hearing great things. Safe came along, and in those big banks and big organizations, they lapped it up. They loved it. Those guys did a great job of helping, sell the dream. But yeah, nowadays,
you raise a very interesting point, which I actually want to dig into a bit more. Now, there's this, or I won't say there is, but there has been in the past. It's died down a bit now. Agile is dead. Scrum is dead. That is dead. That is dead idea. And I think I even saw a post today where someone actually put a tombstone and all that. What are your thoughts on that?
It's bullshit. Excuse my language. It's clickbait. It's clickbait. And yeah, it's really frustrating, actually, because there are so many good practitioners that are in the community, especially in London and the UK, but certainly across Europe and India, Africa, America. There's so many good practitioners out there, and people that are making a real difference to organizations. They are helping increase time to market, like speed up time to market. They are helping to reduce cycle time, to increase customer retention rates, to increase code quality within organizations. So it's really frustrating when those posts around agile is dead pop up, and it's gained quite a bit of momentum. Actually, it started probably early last year that I noticed it, and this year it seems to be taking on even more energy and more debate. But yeah, for me, it's just clickbait. It's nonsense. And sure, if people have had bad experiences, that's also normal in all kinds of different work environments. But to blame it on effectively a tool, which is what agility is, it's a set of tools.
Yes.
then that's not the right approach. I'm
Mm,
guessing if they've had a bad experience, there's probably something else going on.
yeah, yeah, very true. And just to add to what you said, what I noticed is that if I saw company directors, CTOs, and CIOs saying, "No, Agile doesn't work," I would get what they're saying, because what they're saying is the deployment of the tool within the organization didn't seem to work. Then I'll
Mm,
dig deeper to say, okay, what stopped it from working? Because it's a spanner. It's
yeah,
meant to bring this stuff. It's a screwdriver. It's meant to bring out a screw. It
yeah,
doesn't work. Maybe because the screw is stuffed in the wrong way. Maybe it's the wrong size. Something. It's meant to work normally. That's
yeah.
one. Two, and I think, like you said, the thing that frustrates you is that I see some practitioners jumping on the bandwagon for sake of clickbait, but not realizing that what you are doing is you are in the Kanban university. It's a term that they use when we're talking about pricing. They say, "Don't piss in the pool you swim." You get.
Absolutely.
So if an agile practitioner is saying Scrum is dead, Agile is dead, then when the CTO looks to see, can I get somebody to help me? He says, "Oh, it's dead. Should I bother with this then?"
Mm,
You see, there's
yeah,
that part.
and it's the wrong. A CTO shouldn't be asking that question. I would say as well. They shouldn't be asking who can come and help me be more agile.
Mm,
That's because that is a tool. And what's actually your goal? That's what I'm interested in. Why are you interested in working with people like us? What
mm,
is it that you're hoping to be different or better as a result of our work? That's what I'm interested in. And
mm, mm.
if you use the word agile or not, do you know what? I don't care, because it's over time, as you gain experience, you can apply different things in different contexts. And so, to your analogy, you find the right tool for the job, but you've got quite a nice big toolkit of things that you've used along the way.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's I'm looking forward to that conversation and that debate, just for that to be the next tombstone.
Exactly. And you see, to our listeners, what Noel is saying very clearly is this: the idea of agile being dead is purely clickbait. Now, are there issues with the tool, with the deployment of the tool and the context is being used? Yes. But that's what the tool is there for. That's what the practitioner is there for. So
Yeah.
to all you agile coaches and scrum masters jumping on the bandwagon, what you are doing, you are pissing in the pool you are swimming in. I think what we should be looking at is, how can we solve the problems that the businesses face today using the tools we have? It may be Scrum, it may be Kanban, it may be Safe, it may be Agile in its own. I remember I listened to a podcast where a guy said where he worked, he didn't actually use any Scrum or Kanban or any of those terms. He used the 12 Agile principles and just organized meetings around them and made them effective,
Mm,
made them use those principles. And he said he delivered value. He never
yeah,
once
absolutely.
used the word Scrum, never once used the word Kanban. The principles were enough for where he was.
Exactly.
So, and that's
Yeah.
what I think partners should be looking at, because I see a lot of them that they're just there on LinkedIn actually, that I'm thinking, is that it really?
Yeah.
Is that
And
the problem?
yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you. And maybe this is a controversial statement, but I think we haven't helped ourselves over the last.
I agree
Over,
100%. Stamped.
I think, and myself included in the early stages of my career. But I think as a role of either Scrum Master or Agile Coach, I actually think we've done a really shit job of showing that our value in measurable,
Mm,
intangible terms that senior people can understand. So
yes.
we should always, and this is part of how you work, I guess, as you just become more experienced, but we should always be looking for some baseline data when we start any new
Mm,
role. And we should work with the leaders to identify what is the change that you want to see. What's the bottom line impact that's important for you?
mm,
We're just going to go after that. And if within 3 months or 6 months, I haven't made a positive change to those numbers, then either there's something going on in the organization that's just too much of a blocker,
yeah.
or I'm not the right person to help you fix it. But it should be black and white in the sense that there's metrics that you're going after, and are they improving or not? Yes or no? And
That's it.
we've talked a lot about the mindset and helping people become more engaged, and that all of that is true, but leaders don't buy that. They can't get behind that. So I think we need to do a better job of really articulating in business terms what's the impact that we've had. How much have we saved an organization? How much revenue have we helped them gain? How much waste have we removed from their system? But in tangible terms, we've reduced your cycle time by 38% by doing XYZ.
Yeah.
And as a result of that has saved you 127 grand a year. Now they're awake. Now they're listening.
Exactly.
Yeah, but if you start talking about mindset and psychological safety, they're like, whatever, just I want my teams to deliver more stuff.
And you just said something that's really powerful. When I coach some Scrum Masters, right? And I always tell them that when you walk into an organization, remember, if you have a people manager, he or she must see what you are doing, the impact. If you have an agile coach, you may be able to decipher that the team has gotten better because of you, but you have to be able to demonstrate to them in the language they understand. Like you said, if you tell a CTO right now that the team is happier, he would think to himself, well, if I brought ice cream to the office every day, they'll be happy. So what does that mean to me?
Mm.
Even though it's along the way to producing the value that you want to produce, but focus on the value that matters to them. They're not
Yes,
necessarily concerned about the daily scrum being effective. That is those are
absolutely.
part of your tools to produce what they need. And like you said at the
Mhm.
beginning, a lot earlier days, we started with teaching people the process,
Yeah.
getting them to be good at daily scrum, keeping daily scrum 15 minutes, keeping the sprint plan according to the scrum guide, doing that, doing this, doing that. But in the end, when they're counting the beans and they're saying we need to cut costs, they're going to look at that scrum master and go, well, it makes the team happy. I
Mm.
can get ice cream for a lot cheaper. So get rid
Mhm.
of that scrum master.
Mhm. Yeah, exactly. And it's not that Scrum doesn't work, and it does. And sometimes being rigid about it and applying it as it's intended in the guide as a framework, but with those foundations, then absolutely it works. But to the point that we're trying to make here, I think collectively, is that your role within that team, whatever your title is to make sure that we're able to measure and demonstrate that in tangible terms.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah.
And what I could get from what you were saying is I think we have some synergy in the way we think. I noticed
Mm.
that you talk about tools. So from what I'm getting, what you're saying, and I think I want the listeners to catch this very clearly. What Noel is saying is that Scrum, Kanban, Safe, and all that, these are tools.
Mm-hmm.
The same way, if all you know to use is a hammer, everything is like a nail. But
Mm-hmm.
as a practitioner of Agile, you need to know more than one tool because
Yeah,
every context will determine what tool you use or
absolutely.
what combination of tools you use.
Yeah,
You know.
absolutely. I was in an organization only yesterday where they have over 20 development teams. Some of them are traditional waterfall, project managed. Others are using Scrum with 3-week iterations.
Mm,
And they've got other teams who are currently adopting Kanban because they feel that that's better suited to their need. And one of the um, criticisms or conversations that I've had with the leadership is, it's really hard for us because there's no consistency. Like we're trying to understand what everyone's doing, but everyone's working in a different way. And so part of our role is to say, well, that's okay. It doesn't matter how they're getting there, but what is the result that you want across all of these teams?
yeah,
And if it's different, fine, but let's be clear about what it is. And if it's the same, again, how they get there, that's up to them. And so as long as they are able to, again, demonstrate the value,
exactly.
then don't worry about that.
So true, so true. I think there's something you said here that I picked up from your LinkedIn profile. You put something there. You said clarity, action, results.
Oh, yes, that's it. That's it. I think, yeah, that's my current thinking is that the work that we do breaks down really nicely into those three chunks. So we, at the very early stages, we need to help get clarity for ourselves on what the ask actually is. We need to help understand what clarity exists or not within the teams, the organization, the leadership. We then need to provide recommendations in order for what actions should we take to try and move the needle in the right direction. And then stick with that, run experiments, test and learn, short iterations, and see what results we get. But yeah, for me, that's just another way of talking about the loop of getting your shit together. Excuse my language, but let's get our shit together. Let's align on what we need to do. Let's crack on and do the work, and then let's see the benefits of it afterwards.
Yeah. There was a day I was taking a walk and this thing was running in my head. I had to record something. And when I listened to it later, I could see the passion in my voice was so high. I was saying on the recording, no customer that buys an iPhone ever asks themselves the question, was it built using Scrum or Kanban? The customer has no concern.
Yes.
You as a practitioner, your job is to look at the context, look at what works, and help the organization deliver value according to their goals and objectives.
Yeah.
Leave all the framework fights behind.
Absolutely. I think just to add to it as well, and just to broaden it maybe a little bit, I've generally also seen a lack of skill and capability in the product space as well, certainly over the last 5 years, where people are being put into product roles, product owner, product manager, and they aren't being given the training or the expertise in order to fulfill that role, because it's a massive role.
It is.
If you take into account the market research, the competitor analysis, all the way through that end-to-end life cycle of the product that they're looking after, is a huge amount of time that's needed. And yet very rarely are they allocated to just one product, or just one or two teams. Normally it's a side of the desk thing still today. It is becoming more common that there are full-time product owners, but I think there's also been a lack of, I think from a product perspective, certainly within the agile teams and organizations that I've worked with, there's also been a gap in terms of them being able to say, well, the impact of this work is X. Great, you're releasing features faster. Great. That means that we are gaining new customers, or we're retaining existing customers, whatever it may be. But I think, especially in large organizations, that is a real gap. It's, ship it. That's the goal. Ship it. Okay, great. On to the next thing. Well, why? Why bother? How do we know that's the right thing? So I encourage all product people to help their teams, regardless of whether they're using Agile or whatever. But if you're a product person, you should be helping motivate that team by giving them data around how their product is performing. Because it's super motivating to know that you've released this app that's just won an award, or that it's got its first 1,000 downloads, or it's in the top 25 on the Google Android store. That's super motivating. I mean, and I've worked on some quite boring stuff, in fact, like loan applications and mortgage applications and things like that. And it's basically just online forms that people have to fill in and documents they have to print. But when you learn that for every online form that someone fills in, that it saves 2 days of a mortgage advisor's time. It saves about £500 in cost for that person. And that there are around 50 of these being done online a week, which doesn't sound huge. You're like, hang on a minute. 50 times 500 times 5 days, however many weeks in a year. And it's like,
then
wow.
How many branches?
Yeah, exactly. It's huge. So even if you're working on something that might seem a little bit monotonous or a bit boring, no, not very sexy, actually, you could still be having an incredible impact for the
Yeah.
organization that you work with. So, yeah, we
Yeah.
need to get better at finding that out and talking about that rather than
Mm.
should it be Scrum? Should it be Kanban?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That part should be long gone. I
Yeah.
worked in a company once that you just reminded me of. Every couple of weeks we have a huddle, and what they will do is bring all the Scrum teams together and then
Mhm.
show what one team did, the result in pounds.
Nice.
Yeah.
Lovely.
They say how many people, it was an insurance company, so they were looking at this was when MTA, do you know what MTA, meet amendment, when it was still kind of new. So they're looking at different things they could do around it before they actually hit it. So every innovation, every tactical thing that we did towards MTA, we look at the results. And it was always how many FTE hours we reduced in the call center, how much that brought to the company, the fact that people
Mm,
used to drop off the site before, how many people, how many more people are staying on to buy the application or buy the insurance
mm.
compared. And like you rightly said, it was motivating because
Yeah.
the teams were, I remember in that organization, there's a particular team that were working with some partners that we build the back end, but we put their front end on it. And the product owner was so empowered that someone in that organization said, "Oh, do it this way." And he said, "No, the data doesn't support it." And this guy in his suit and tie was like, "What do you mean?"
Mm.
And I talking to this young guy that's wearing a t-shirt and flip-flops and shorts. And they're
Mhm.
like, data doesn't support it. And the senior manager from the organization insisted, escalated it. The director came in and said, "Okay, do you know what? We can push two separate points. Let's do A/B testing.
Great.
Keep it the way you think it is. Let's do it the way he says it should be done. After a month, let's look at the results."
Mm.
And I'm not joking, Noel. The product owner there was proved right. And
Mm.
the senior executives in the company had to say, "Wow, I respect your opinion now.
Yeah,
Let's
brilliant.
roll it to what you're saying." And I was like,
Brilliant. Yeah, yeah. Love it. I think there's so many good things in what you just said. I mean, the fact that teams are showcasing to each other and they're talking about it in terms of impact, great.
mm,
It like company impact, customer impact, brilliant. The fact that you've got product owners that have data and use it to drive their prioritization,
mm,
incredible. And even if there is a debate about whether something should be done or not, to
mm,
introduce that multivariant testing and let's 50% of users on this 50,
yeah,
let's run it for 2 weeks and see who the winner is. Brilliant. All of those things are great examples, and unfortunately I've seen them um, in in the minority of
yeah, same
organizations.
here. I've only seen it in
Mm,
one organization.
yeah, yeah. So
Mm,
there's a lot of good stuff out there, but I think there's a huge opportunity for us to continue to do good work and to
mm,
help organizations move forward.
yeah, yeah. Okay, so the question that comes to my mind is, with your level of experience and exposure and insight, what would you say if there was one thing that we could do to quote unquote heal the industry? What do you think it would be?
Well, let me challenge you there.
Mm.
What's the illness that you're referring to?
Ah, I like that. It's like what I did to my wife when I asked my wife when she says something. I always ask her, "What problem are you trying to solve?" Let's roll back to that.
Mhm,
Okay, so the illness is where. So I'm a CTO.
mhm,
I want to, or I'm a CEO. I'm in a very competitive space. There are many ideas we have, but my concern is that traditionally we take too long.
mhm.
But if I stay where I am, I'm going to die in the next 5 years. How do we cure the situation where that CTO or CEO looks and thinks, "Let me speak to Noel. I've seen what he's done. Let's reach out to Noel and see what he can do for us."
Mhm.
So
I
how
think
do we make that, I won't say commonplace, but more commonplaces, yeah. How do you make it commonplace where they look at a guy that has an expert that has many tools and they can say, "I'm sure with his expertise, one of his tools should help us."
mhm. Yeah, it's a great question. I think having data that helps people understand where you've made impact and what kind of impact that you've made is one of the key things here. So case studies, you should always be thinking, what's the case study here? You know, even if you take a short-term 3-month contract, one of my friends recently just got a short-term cover role for 3 months, which is quite unusual at the moment. But straight away, I know he's thinking, right, what's my case study here? At the end of these 3 months, how can I tell a great story about this, how this team is getting on? It's not about him. It's about the work that the team are doing and what they're delivering. But straight away, and there's just not enough of that. So I think we need to be able to prove our value, which should be quite easy to do in most cases.
Yeah.
And we need to shift the conversation towards, I'm not going to say outcomes, but I'm going to say what actually matters for these
That
business people.
organization. Yeah.
Yeah, we need to be willing to have that conversation with them before we walk blindly into a role. Whatever the organization is, however big or small, we need to understand that they're not after an agile coach, or if they are, why, or they're not really after a scrum master or a delivery lead or a product owner. It's like, no, let's have this conversation as part of the interview process. You know, your role is you need to be asking questions to see, am I the right fit? Not just, please give me a job. It's, you know, you want to be able to go somewhere where you're going to be able to be valued and respected and do good work and be motivated and help others. So it's really important that I think we also are braver to have those conversations earlier, and also to say no to things. So I wouldn't necessarily say this is a cure, but I think it's definitely been a pain that we haven't helped with. So saying no to things is equally important for your own integrity, but also just for the industry and the roles and the what it is that we're trying to do. And absolutely, it's hard sometimes, but trust your gut. There's often situations that you'll find yourself in and you feel this just isn't right. And again, maybe that comes with experience, and there's plenty of people out there who are a hell of a lot more experienced than I am. But I'm starting to get to that point now where you can sense, okay, this organization, this team, this system of interconnected teams, they're not ready for the kind of work that I do yet. They're just, it would be a waste of their money to invest that in my time right now.
Yeah.
And so actually, I'm going to say that to them. I'm going to say, look, thank you, but it's not going to work right now. Maybe if these other 2 or 3 things are in place in the next 3-6 months, great, give me a call. I was really lucky in the early stages of my career. I worked with a couple of absolutely brilliant people. And one of them I stayed in touch with for many years. And he said, I spoke to him once, like, how's things going? And he said, yeah, really good. I fired my client today.
Oh, wow. Really?
Yeah. He's like, I sacked the client. I was like, okay, tell me, I need to know what I need to know what this is. And he was like, I've been in there. I've spent 3 weeks in there doing my diagnostics, having some conversations, just sensing, feeling, talking, getting the data, looking at things. And actually what they are asking for is just simply not achievable. And so I said to them that I'm going to terminate the contract because I'm not going to be able to meet the expectations that you've put on this. Like, wow, that was so inspiring. So inspiring. I've done it twice so far in my career. Once when I had spent 5 months of a 6-month gig working in an organization where they started talking about next steps. And I said, no, sorry,
It's not
but
working.
the culture and the leadership infighting across different geographical locations is your problem to fix, not the delivery teams. And there's another client at the moment who I turned down working with because again, at the portfolio level, the way that they throw ad hoc crazy amounts of demand at the teams without any joined up thinking, without any real governance or process other than whoever shouts loudest.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be in an environment like that because the teams are going to be so demotivated. And unless I'm working with that leadership team,
Yeah, exactly.
I can't make that change. And
Yeah.
sometimes you're lucky enough to have that
To
exposure
walk
and
into
get in
that.
there.
Yeah.
But more often than not, we're not invited into those conversations.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I think a combination of being led by data, take the emotion out of it, have data, have facts about what you do and how you do it, be willing to say no to the wrong gig or the wrong client or clients that are not in the right space. And yeah, just stop talking about whether it's Scrum or Kanban. No one gives a shit. it's
Exactly.
it's bullshit. That would be a prime example of agile bullshit.
Exactly. Yeah. So thanks for that. Thanks for that answer. That's really, really, really powerful. I learned a lot from that. Okay. So now you said you've been in for 15 years plus. One question I'd like to ask: if you had the chance to go back to meet Noel just before you walked into that first meeting, what will you tell yourself, knowing what you know now about agile and agility and all that? What will you tell yourself?
Wow, that's a great question. Do you know, I don't, there's not much I would say because we have to experience things firsthand for ourselves and we have to make mistakes and we have to go on that journey in order to come out further along down the line. And we're all still on a journey, of course, but I've made plenty of mistakes. I fell in love with Scrum and become, a Scrum basher.
Scrum police.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And
I
I've
think we all did, actually. I think we all did. It's almost like a rite of passage.
oh yeah, I've been on the training gravy train like a Boy Scout, trying to get all the badges, investing a lot of time and money in courses which have been helpful, but not always. And yeah, I think so. What would I tell myself? Well, it's coming back round to the current conversation that we're having, but I would say don't rely on stakeholders and team members and people within the organization, the leaders, knowing what you're doing and knowing the impact of what you're doing. Because as soon as someone asks a question around that, you need to be able to state
Immediately.
yeah, you need to be able to state this is why we're doing what we're doing, and it just removes that friction.
Thank you for that.
So
That's really good.
I didn't start doing that, I think, until probably 4 or 5 years into the journey properly. Like I was aware that it was important, but it wasn't part of my practice. And ever since I've made that switch, it's made a big difference from how I approach work.
I can imagine. Oh, fantastic. Thank you for that. And now you have a book.
Yeah.
I can't say the name very well, but this is it, right?
Hey.
Yeah, ordered it. Of course I did. You wrote a book. Of course I ordered it.
Excellent. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
glad. Yeah. What do you think of it?
I've started reading that. To be fair, like you described last week, a couple of it's like I was looking at one. Wait, I put a bookmark inside somewhere. Okay, so where's my bookmark? Oh, these kids. Okay, let me try and find it. I have 3 kids that are active readers, so my bookmarks get missing quite quickly. Yeah, they would take it and say, "Daddy, please," you know. So where is it? There was one that you're talking about, and you're trying to, So I think this is it. You're talking about user stories here, right? As a DB, I want to show that you broke it down to show how people normally do user stories, what to look out for, why not, why this, and I was like, wow. I think what I like about the book, what I've read so far, is the fact that you break it down. It's pretty much like take away all the fluff look at what it is, look at what I've done, look at the mistakes I've made, look at what I've learned, pick this up, you learn better this way, move on. And I
Hmm.
love that.
Yeah.
So to our listeners, I'll put the link to the book in the show notes. It's on Amazon as well. So I'll put it on the show notes. So you can it's a fantastic book. Noel tells the stories very clearly. You would learn a lot. I'm telling you. You will learn a
Well,
lot.
and just to add, so it was co-written with another guy, Cohn Vastermans, who's
Yeah.
he produces loads of games that support agile conversations and other things as well. He's really into DevOps at the moment. He's currently creating a whole set of information around DevOps bullshit, which is cool. Um, so he was my co-author, and
Okay.
I would say we probably had another 200 co-authors as well. So it was a massive community effort, because what's really important for you, clearly, by doing this podcast, and for me as well, is that your opinion is just your opinion, right? And there's a lot of other people out there who have got incredible knowledge, incredible experience, different insights. And that's what makes the magic happen, when you're open to that
Yeah.
and you're willing to listen and learn from other people. So what we did with the book was we broke it down into a very iterative approach, and we started off with a deck of cards, and we just published one card a week on LinkedIn and invited people to comment, like,
Oh,
where have you seen
nice.
this problem? So it
Mm,
was things that we thought were common anti-patterns that we'd experienced, but
mm,
let's open a conversation and see which ones resonate with people. Let's see who's got a strong opinion on it. And over the course of a year, we got into this. We didn't even start with that intention, but we got into the routine of posting one every week, and we called it 1 year of bullshit. And at the end of it, we've got every one of the cards is in the book,
yeah.
and there's insights from at least one practitioner from the community, but sometimes
Mm,
three or four. And we've had some great people contribute to it. Karim Harbot, who wrote Six
yeah,
Enablers,
yeah, yeah.
Tobias Meyer, Mike Cohn even contributed to some of it, and loads of other great people as well. So it's a real community effort, and that was important for us,
Mm.
as it should be in our work as well. That it's not just right. I've got 15 years experience under my belt, and so here I come.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you have 15 years experience of doing things the way you think they should be done. There's
yeah,
so many ways,
totally,
so
totally.
many contexts. The more you interface, the better you are. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And you gain skills and experience and confidence over time, and
Mm,
I back myself going into organizations and trying to help them, but it's never going to be just down to me.
yeah.
It's going to be down to whoever's already in that organization, whoever's leading those teams in that organization. And if collectively we can come together and create something, then
Mm.
that's the magic.
Excellent, excellent. So two more questions, or I think two more. So there's this question I usually ask, which is, if you had every Scrum Master in the world, Agile coach, delivery lead, flow master, flow manager. I was once called Kanban master in my role. I took an
Whoa,
official role. So
whoa.
Kanban, Kanban master and all that. If you had all of them in one stadium and you had 2 minutes to talk to them, what would you tell them?
Wow. Uh, what I would what I would focus on is the power, the collective power that that stadium would be holding,
Hmm.
and that it wouldn't be that, okay, you've got your home fans and your away fans, and you've got your Scrum people over here and your Kanban people over there, like boo, yeah. It would be that together we are stronger, and
Hmm.
we we want the same thing.
Yeah.
We all want the same thing, and that is to help individuals, teams, and organizations to be better at what they do, whether
Hmm.
that's software, hardware, whether it's a physical product, digital, whatever. That is who we're there to serve and how we're going to serve them. So, let's really support each other and build each other up and help each other out. And yeah, don't get involved in some of the nonsense that you see on LinkedIn, where people just, slamming each other. It's like, come on, we're in this together, right? We have
Exactly.
a huge body of work and knowledge that's been built up over 30 years, and we should absolutely be drawing on that as much as possible and moving forward together.
That is so powerful. That is so true. Yeah, because when you look at it, and like I was telling someone that my mentality with the podcast is, if we're able to improve the industry, everybody benefits. When I say improve, not necessarily improve, but improve how we are viewed by the people we need to serve, everybody benefits. So
Yeah.
there's no need, biting each other, like you said, booing the other person on the other side. Everybody knows something. Everybody needs to know something. That part is constant. So you might be good with this. Don't boo the other person that isn't good at it. Just look at how can you help to bridge the knowledge gap. Because if we all get better, if we improve what we do and improve how we are seen, we all benefit from it. Companies will be calling us to say, "Oh, I want to be, I want to be able to do A, B, C. Come and help us." And you go and do
Absolutely.
your assessment, help them their team
Yeah.
structure, and start delivering value. That's how. I mean, we are. Like I was telling a friend of mine, is a professional Scrum trainer. I was like, when you sit down and think of it, I was like, a Scrum Master should be involved in organizational design, and he said, yeah. But the problem is how many people can trust. How many CTOs will sit down and say, yeah, that's the guy I need to help me with the design of the organization? And it's how do we get them there? And his point was, yeah, we spend so much time fighting each other, the problem persists.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Yeah. And you've got a lot of people who have quite rightly got the certification and been on the training course to become more skilled and have more knowledge, but the experience takes time. You've got to get those different organizations, different teams, different products, different sectors. You've got to get that stuff under your belt, and it takes time to get there. You can't, in your first year or two of being a Scrum Master, probably you can't meaningfully have a conversation about organizational design.
No.
So yeah, hopefully you're going to get there at some point, but
Yeah.
that's a big journey. But yeah,
Mm.
it's
Yeah. So true. So true. And one question that I know that usually gives people, it gives them a lot of thought. So we've been discussing for a while. What question should I have asked you? Gotcha.
Wow. What question should you have asked me?
Mm.
Okay. So a good question might have been
Mm.
like, why write a book? Why bother? Why not just why are you vocal about what we do?
Mm.
And why don't you just sort of quietly get on with it with a bit, just kind of humble British, stay in your corner and just do a good job? So
Yeah.
that would be an interesting question.
Okay. So why don't you stay in your corner, Noel?
Well, what a great question.
Yeah, that's an awesome question. Fantastic. I don't know how I thought about it.
Yeah, I think I think it's important for us to share the wins, the frustrations, the different approaches, the different tools, the different techniques. Because going back to the together we're stronger,
Mm-hmm.
there's just such a huge amount of knowledge and skill in people who do roles like product manager, scrum master, product coach, agile coach, delivery manager, whatever you want to call it, even project managers. Let's not diss project managers. That's a very skilled profession with some excellent people in it. And
Mm.
I've worked in that role myself, and I've worked with a lot of great project managers, even as part of an organization that's trying to be more agile.
Yeah.
So no dissing of no shade. I'm throwing no shade on them. But I think it's just it's really important that we always talk about continuous improvement.
Yeah.
And so, like you said, I really like your quote. We all know something and we all need to know something.
Mm.
And I am very keen to learn as much as I can from other people. And I'm also willing to share some of the experiences and insights that I've built up over the years, because I want to contribute to that bigger picture, that bigger ecosystem of skill, of knowledge. And I think that's something that we naturally do quite well.
Mm.
And I really enjoy being part of those conversations. So, yeah, I think it's a very welcoming, open community in the most part.
Yeah. Yeah.
And with a very strong growth mindset. And so, whatever you're learning, whatever you're experiencing, yeah, share it, because people do enjoy hearing about it. And yeah, so be brave, be bold, and yeah, put your stories on LinkedIn, share it. You're going to get a lot of love for it, and I'm
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, you just proved one of my theories. People that are truly knowledgeable are humble about their knowledge, and they know that their knowledge is based on an exposure. So they want to learn more and share more.
Mm, yeah,
I've noticed that people that are very knowledgeable, people that don't know stuff are always like, yeah, yeah, yeah. But people that are knowledgeable, I tell you they're the quickest to listen. Yeah, because they know that what I know is because I found out. If
yeah,
I didn't find out, I wouldn't know. So the more I find out, the more I know. And that's what I've come to realize. And you just proved it right now.
yeah.
Because that's
And
that's what drives your desire to share.
of course, and I've been in that spot where I thought I knew. Like, I've been on a Scrum team; it was going great. I'm now certified Scrum Master. Been working with them for 18 months. Boom, I've made it. You know, I'm that guy. And then you go somewhere else into a different organization, a different team, crash and burn. So you have to go through that journey, right? You and learn. But
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of my earlier business attempts, the name of the business was called Humble Associates, because yeah, and a couple of people tried to sort of make a bit of a joke about it, but it's, you know, it was such an important part of our values as an
Mm,
organization, as a
mm.
group of people trying to create this business, and that business carried on, and is still going today. But yeah, humility, and it is, there's loads and loads of it again in our community. And yeah, it's, so don't worry about people thinking that you're showing off. You're always going to get some people like that, but if you do it in the way that you're suggesting, that, you know, it's, I've learned some stuff, I want to learn stuff from other people, here's what I experienced, what did you experience in a similar situation? Great, that's how that conversation starts and how we all get better.
Yeah, fantastic, fantastic. Thank you so very much, Noel. It's been fantastic having you on the podcast. Before our listeners leave, the book is out. I'll put the link in the show notes. Go get it. You will learn so much. I'm taking a trip very soon. And this is my flight companion. Honestly speaking, I'm going to be on the flight reading this throughout. No, because like I said, we all know stuff. We need to know stuff. And when some people write, there's some people you should buy from. So I'm telling our readers, all our listeners, the link will be in the show notes. It's called Agile Bullshit, but the link will be in the show notes. So
Yeah,
click on it, buy it, read it, recommend it, share it. The more we know, the better we are, the better for our community. So
absolutely.
thank you very
And
much.
the biggest bit of bullshit in the book goes right back to what you started the conversation with, which is agile is,
Exactly.
oh, it's gone funny. My camera has gone
Oh, it's
funny.
gone
Yeah,
blurred. Yeah, yeah.
agile is dead.
It's dead.
That
That's
that
number one.
that is the biggest bullshit.
So if you want to
Thank you.
find out why that is bullshit, buy the book and
Nice
read it and
one. Thank you
understand.
so much for inviting me. I've really enjoyed the
No
conversation.
worries. It's been fantastic. It's been fantastic. I'm really glad. You know, one thing I enjoyed being starting this podcast is I've had the awesome opportunity to speak to really awesome people, and I don't take it for granted at all because I know how busy I am. I know how busy everybody must be. So for someone to sit down and stand in front of the camera and talk, it means the person that said, "I'm not going to do this now. I'm going to do this first of all, then I'll go back to what I'm doing." So thank you so very much for that. I really
No
appreciate it.
problem. No problem at all. Thank you.
Thank you. And so our listeners, we've had a wonderful session with Noel. I'm sure you've learned a lot. Like I said later, look at the book, go online. The link will be in the show notes. Buy the book. And even if you're looking to contact Noel, I'll put his link in the show notes. So you see his LinkedIn, email. Reach out to Noel. He is an awesome personality, really speaking. He knows what he's talking about. He's been there. You're not seeing his arm right now, but he has the battle scars to show it. So he's been there. He's been through stuff.
Yeah, look.
You see, he showed us some of his battle scars. Yeah. And you see, and one of my principles for part of this podcast is I always believe that the younger generation should stand on the shoulders of the older generation. And I'm thinking people that have been there for a while, when they share their stories, you'd be amazed. You know, the things you say that you've gone through, there's somebody that's right now about to enter into that meeting. That thing you said is like, oh, that's what I should think about. There's someone that about to go into a meeting next week. They're going to say, what have you done? And what you said now, so the person to go, oh, let me go in to look at the metrics. Let me look at when I started. What was cycle time? What's cycle time now? When the person walks in, the person's like, yep, at least Noel, and let me show what you've done. When I did this was the result. I've saved you £30,000 a week.
Oh, imagine.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, that would be incredible. If I've influenced anyone to try that out, and yeah, if anyone wants to try it out and isn't sure how, absolutely reach out. Let's have a conversation.
Reach out. The link will be in the show notes. Reach out to Noel. He will show you I mean, he's been doing this for over 15 years and been demonstrating value for over 10 years. So if there's someone that knows what you should show, Noel is your man. So reach out to him. Sorry, I know you're going to get bombarded with a lot of reach outs, but it's all for the sake of the community, yeah?
Yeah, and it'll be very welcome.
Yeah, okay. So thank you very much, listeners. Thank you for another exciting episode of Agile Mixes podcast. So see you next time. And like I always say, keep agile, keep delivering value. Thank you very much.